Hi guys, good evening and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video I will be discussing what I thought of the latest and very amusing and surprisingly heartfelt episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which dropped its newest episode a couple days ago, this past Thursday. I finally had a chance to watch it, really enjoyed it. A big step up from the previous episode, which was but this episode was great. So before I get into all of that, of course, like most of my episode reviews, this is a spoiler-filled review. So, excuse me. So if you're not caught up on Strange New Worlds by the latest episode, which is episode 5 of season 2, you do not want to keep watching or listening, as I will be going into spoilers, plot details, character stuff, all that jazz. That being said, you have been warned. Let's dive right back into it. So it feels like maybe not every season, but every other season. Okay, I don't know how often this happens, but the point is, every couple episodes in a Star Trek show, you have a fairly lighthearted, comedic episode that's mostly humorous, and it's like they're not facing a life or death situation. It's more like an inconvenient shenanigan almost. And I feel like that's what the premise of this episode was. Spock and Christine are in a shuttle accident, and he's somehow affected, and his DNA is changed by some ancient aliens who thought they were fixing a human being by eliminating his Vulcan DNA, but it turns out they just made him fully human. And therein came most of the comedy of the story, was him trying to adjust being fully human, getting in touch with his emotions and trying to control his emotions and whatnot. His crewmates and the captain, all of them helping him out. And of course, timing-wise, it could not have been more perfect, because he was set to have a meal or a gathering with his fiancée and her Vulcan parents, who don't really like him that much. Well, the dad seemed actually pretty cool, but the mom does not like him. And it's funny, the first half of this episode felt pretty funny, but then the second half took kind of a more serious turn, I should say, with Christine going back to the aliens, trying to get his DNA back, and recruiting her crewmates to go with her, and them telling her to admit to the aliens how she feels about Spock. And then Spock, while still human, trying to put up with all the bullshit that his future mother-in-law was throwing at him, being super insulting and cruel towards him and his fiancée. Even his fiancée doesn't seem to like her own mother that much, and who can blame her? But I realized while watching this episode, I'm like, oh my God, it's Festivus. This episode was the Star Trek version of Festivus, from Seinfeld. This hilarious episode where George's father, Frank, comes up with this new tradition of telling people how they've let you down and have disappointed you over the past year, because that's exactly what T'Pring's mother was doing to Spock, was her just blatantly stating her outright disapproval and frankly racist attitude towards him, because she doesn't think he's good enough for T'Pring, mostly because of his handicap of being half human. And then this episode also took a serious turn when Spock eventually gets, his Vulcan side back thanks to Christine's efforts. She convinces the aliens to give him back his Vulcan DNA. She injects it in him. He goes back to normal. But after he becomes himself again, now that he's been through the experience he's been through, he can now say with absolute certainty that he appreciates and understands and seemingly loves his mother so much more now, because he now understands and realizes what she must go through on a day-to-day basis of being the only one of the few humans living on Vulcan, being in love with a Vulcan, Spock's father, and looking down upon and being shunned by other Vulcans. And now Spock has gained that own perspective and experience, and now realizes how his mother must have felt, just completely alienated all these years. And it helped him, I think, appreciate and respect and love his mother all that more. And speaking of his mother, it's great that we got, another legacy character, which is Spock's mother, obviously played by a different actress. But it was great to see that character again, and great casting too, because this young lady looked a lot like the actress who would end up playing the older version of his mother in the original series. So excellent casting, I felt like. Overall, great episode. Like I said, a big step up from the previous episode. It was funny. It had heartfelt moments. It did have high stakes that eventually got resolved, like most Star Trek episodes do. It just wasn't necessarily life or death. I mean, they did make it clear that he could, permanently be this way forever if they don't change him sooner rather than later. So that was pretty high stake. But overall, great episode. Like I said, funny and heartfelt. And it also gave us a really shocking ending with Christine and Spock finally not maybe necessarily making it official, but becoming an item themselves, which would make sense because this would help explain later on in the original series the eventual strained and then completely broken relationship between Spock and T'Pring, as we remember from that classic original series episode. But we'll worry about that later. So in the meantime, really enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys did too. What did you all think of it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings on it. Everybody was so funny in this. And the actress who played Spock's mother, a special round of applause to her. She did a wonderful job, as did everybody, but she really stood out to me. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Again, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more episodes like reviews like this one. We are now halfway through season 2 already, if you can believe it, with only a few more episodes to go. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Thanks again for watching, and of course, until next time, live long and prosper.